Welcome to Crypto Simulation Theory. I'm the Gaussian Snake. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about Ethereum and what I see in its future. And I'm calling this video the Bermuda Triangle for a reason you'll see shortly. Just a reminder, none of this is financial advice. Be sure to join my free Telegram group and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Let's get going. So I drew a fairly complicated triangle diagram for Ethereum that gives me sort of an idea of where I think this asset might be going. Now, none of this is based off of any kind of momentum TA. This is entirely structural. And, so it's a little bit of a different approach than what I usually do. So if we just take a look at the triangles I drew, there's triangles within triangles within triangles. I want to start with the green triangle. And the green triangle is basically more or less formed by the first leg of Ethereum's journey. And then you have these three touch points that Ethereum has had once in 2017, March of 2021. Basically, it's bull market tops. And then you also have the bottom of the triangle, which has generally corresponded to some significant bottom prices for Ethereum, not necessarily the bottom. It has been sometimes, but of course, we don't exactly know where the bottom is going to be right now, or if we're going to, put in a lower bottom. So we may have to move this down, right? But if we just kind of go with the current price we have now, that would more or less be the bottom of this range. Okay, I can only go with what I know. I can't go with data that I don't have. So keep in mind we could move this green triangle down. Then you have the orange triangle, which is formed by the bull run of 2017, and then also just the four touch points that we've had, including the lower high, series of lower highs that we had in 2024, and then a long-term support trend line that has gone from 2017 all the way to the present day and had many, many um, touch points on this trend line, which I think ultimately will break down. I think the green trend line um, is about to also be broken, right? But I'll just move the triangle down if that happens, right? So let's say that we put in a lower low, you know. Well, you know what? I just think, yeah, this trend line is about to break, anyways. Yeah, so the green trend line is very likely to break. Then we have these shorter term yellow trend lines. This is the bear market of 2018, and then the bull market of 2021, right? And then we have this triangle in here, which is the sort of the resistance point coming out of the bear market and heading into a new bull market. And then we have another triangle within here. Okay, triangles everywhere. So I kind of like, use this to just loosely guess what a projected path for Ethereum might be. And this is just, again, strictly based off of very rudimentary technical analysis, if people want to call it that. I call it structural analysis at this point. There's nothing that technical about it, it's just lines. So what I thought could potentially happen is, we are at a critical point here, and I left the Gunnar EMA on, and notice the Gunnar EMA did print a bearish cross on August 5th. So now we have a bear market resistance band instead of a bull market support band, which we had throughout most of 2024. So bear market resistance band, and I'm thinking we're going to see some kind of drop coming into rate cuts, most likely next week. I know this week has been kind of good, and we are bouncing off this triangle support line, but I actually think we're about to break. In fact, this is where interestingly enough, we're right around where the intersection of the orange and the green trend lines meet each other, and we're about to break. I think we're about to break down. And so I drew out a projected path. We do have this horizontal support zone at around 1800, so I anticipate that if we do break down, we'll probably make a stop there, at least briefly. And I think we go back into the red zone one last time. And my guess is that we're likely to put in a higher low in this red zone. So I don't really see us going down, at least not right now, possibly ever, below 1,000. I think that's quite unlikely, barring some kind of unforeseen black swan event. And then I think there will be a pretty violent bounce, well, at least on the 2 week time frame, which is what this is. Oh, actually, this is the weekly time frame. I originally had this on a 2 week. That's okay. On the weekly time frame, I do think we'll see ourselves kind of bounce out of here, especially if Bitcoin bounces in mid-October. Okay, so I kind of have this bounce maybe occurring a little too soon. Maybe we should push it out like around mid-October and bounce, potentially all the way into 2025. And it's really hard to say, how high we would go, if we would take out the previous top from 2021. Maybe we do, maybe we can't, right? Maybe we can take out that top, we can bounce through, and then hit like $5,000 or something. I think there's a good chance Ethereum would put in a new all-time high near the end of the year in January. And then would it drop? Might drop maybe, let's say, to the top of this trend line. So so like March 2025. March is usually not a good month. Maybe we get a drop to what used to be resistance and now is acting as support, and then our real bull market begins. And I sort of put this in November 2025, a top around 16, $17,000, which I think is pretty reasonable for Ethereum, which would represent approximately about a 9x from 9, 10x, depending on how high we go above it from our current price, and it would be fully in line with staying within this long-term triangle formation. The green triangle is an interesting triangle because, like I said, it has numerous touch points. You can see here we had our first touch point, and then we went to the top of the triangle, and then we went to the bottom of the triangle, and then we went to the top. And so I think, the question is now, where is the bottom of the triangle? Or are we going to go up below it, right? I don't think this is going to hold. I really don't. I have a hard time seeing that. But let's suppose that Bitcoin already put in its bottom, which is possible, but not my base case at all. Then this could hold. But I know all trend lines are meant to break eventually. And I think this triangle of formation will break down multiple times. So I think we'll get back in the triangle, get up to some major top, head into a bear market. And I don't think this is going to mark the bear market bottom. I think we will probably come lower. I can't tell you exactly where we'll come in the bear market. I have no clue. But I think that it is likely we find a top somewhere up here to kind of match the trend line of the previous tops. And that puts us a topping range around quarter 4 of 2025, which is potentially reasonable depending on what happens with our economy between now and then. So don't take any of this too seriously for sort of a long-term view. It's just kind of a projection I'm making based off of triangles. I like to try different things, see what happens with them, and kind of go from there. So you can let me know what you think in the comments if you think this is a reasonable approach. But in the meantime, I don't really spend a lot of time, haven't spent a lot of time looking at Ethereum because Bitcoin dominance has been so high that it just hasn't really made sense. Because if Bitcoin's outperforming Ethereum significantly by a significant margin, which it has been, then why even look at Ethereum, right? But we're getting into a phase now where rate cuts are coming up in a little less than a week. 6 days from now, we're going to have probable rate cuts of 25 basis points, if I had to guess. And it sort of raises the question: all right, well, if there's this perception of more liquidity coming into the market, what's that going to do to Ethereum? So I'm going to start caring more about Ethereum and talking more about it as we approach rate cuts, and after rate cuts, and as the cycle sort of plays itself out, the rate cutting cycle and the liquidity cycle starts to increase. So let's take a look at ETH Bitcoin, which is a much more important metric, in my opinion, than ETH USD, because again, it's like I think it makes sense to hold some ETH. Like, certainly, I'm not saying don't hold any ETH, but obviously the majority of a conservative crypto portfolio would be mostly Bitcoin until Bitcoin kind of like dominance rolls over. So let's take a look at ETH versus Bitcoin. We can actually learn a lot from that chart. But I just wanted to show you kind of just my best guess for what Ethereum is likely to do in the next year. Okay, so this is ETH Bitcoin, and again, we're going to be looking at it from a completely different perspective than what I usually do. I will throw some more TA onto this one. So this is ETH Bitcoin, and instead of having like a bunch of triangles everywhere, I've just made some trend lines. So we have this really long-term trend line that acted as support. I mean, since it first tested, this line was in December of 2016, faked out below, but ultimately held. So this support trend line goes back like 8 years. I have talked about that before. And then you have this trend line, this green one, which has acted as resistance. And so ETH Bitcoin got all the way up to about 0.15 Bitcoin back in 2017, and has never come anywhere close ever since, right? So it's just been in this like um, sort of this like sideways pattern, right? Because it also hasn't ever gone as low as it's gone before either, right? So it's been riding the upper edge of this orange triangle, but also riding the edge of this green triangle as well. And so I've outlined support zone in red, which used to be a resistance zone, but I feel like now I could pretty confidently say this is a support zone, and a new resistance zone up here, which ranges between zero point zero 0.06 ETH and zero point zero 0.06 Bitcoin and roughly 0.085 Bitcoin, which I think are going to be some significant areas to look at next year. So the question is Ethereum an oscillator against Bitcoin, or is it a potentially going to become a bleeder, or is it going to outperform Bitcoin at some point and take out this all-time high? And those are all really great questions that I honestly don't have the answer to. And it really doesn't matter, to be completely honest with you, because all that matters is the direction that each Bitcoin is going. When each Bitcoin is going down, that's when Bitcoin dominance is really taking over. And we put in like a double top with ETH Bitcoin, which is very bearish. And that bear market for ETH Bitcoin is still playing out. And I can just throw on a Gaussian channel or any other number of indicators to prove that to you. You can see it's a less steep bear market because of diminishing volatility compared to this one, but it is still a bear market. And we haven't even made it to the median line of the Gaussian channel yet. I think that time is coming soon to see a reversal. I do. But I think the Gaussian channel is going to be red for a little while longer, probably, even into 2025. So I think what's very likely to happen as we head into rate cuts is that Bitcoin dominance is going to probably get close to putting in a top sometime in quarter four. Once that liquidity comes in, if we get a market pump like I think we're going to get in quarter four, I think that it's going to pretty much finally destroy ETH Bitcoin and send it into this red zone. And I think we'll see some kind of bottoming process down here. And it's really sad that we've lost this long-term trend line, right? You would hope that something like this would break to the upside, but now we're going to have all kinds of resistance to deal with, which makes me think that Ethereum is probably an oscillator at best against Bitcoin in the long run. I think it's going to be an oscillator. Um, I really have a hard time seeing Ethereum breaking out past 0.16. I mean, if you look at the Bitcoin ETF demand, I don't have the data here on screen, and you compare it to the ETH ETF demand, the two aren't even close. Bitcoin ETF is far preferred over the ETH ETF at the moment. Now, that doesn't mean that that won't change, but Bitcoin ETF certainly has a first mover advantage, and Bitcoin is a more trusted name than Ethereum in general with institutional investors. That just is the case, right? So it's really hard for me to chart a path out for this, but I'm going to try. Okay, I'm going to try. So let's go see what a path might look like for ETH Bitcoin. I think ETH Bitcoin is going to bottom sometime in quarter four. So I don't know exactly how this is going to play out, but I think we'll see a movement maybe to October 14th or so, and I think ETH Bitcoin will get some strength, some renewed strength, and I don't know if it's just going to put in another lower high. I mean, I think that is certainly a potential, possibility. Maybe it comes down to put in some kind of like higher low in March, and then I think from there, maybe we come up to this resistance trend line right here, which is like, what is this at? 0.05 something. 0.05 has been an area of support, but I think it might act as a resistance initially. Maybe we come down a little bit, and then finally, as we kind of like inch our way towards the end of the year, maybe we come in here somewhere and hit resistance at like 0.07. I don't know, I have a hard time seeing Ethereum even take out its previous highs. I think from there it's just down. Um, I know this is disappointing to see, but honestly, looks fairly realistic to me. Maybe we could draw a new trend line at that point, a new green trend line. I think something like I think this long-term support trend line is going to act as resistance for Ethereum for a little while. And I honestly don't know how this is going to play out beyond that, but something like this could happen. I'm not really seeing like too many of these explosive upside moves for Ethereum Bitcoin happening in the future. I mean, I think it could, but it'll be on a smaller scale. And what's the reason for that? Well, there's a lot more in the space now than there used to be, right? Like we have multiple layer twos. tons of layer ones, and it's just a lot that's eating away at Ethereum dominance. But don't let this fool you. Anytime ETH Bitcoin's going up, it's good for the altcoin market. Anytime ETH Bitcoin's going down, like it is now, it's generally bad for the altcoin market. And if we zoom in on ETH Bitcoin, you can see that we are currently in a bear market, right? Like we're not even. This is the Lunar EMA. It's fattening. That is indicating a very high probability that we're heading lower. I'm anticipating this drop to occur around rate cuts next week. I think rate cuts will be bearish for the markets when they're announced and they first occur. I think the markets will drop, um, and then I think we'll see a recovery sort of materialize itself heading into quarter 4. That's sort of my base case. I could be wrong, but nobody knows. I don't know any more than you do. And generally, ETH Bitcoin does this double bottoming thing. It did it here in 2019, 2020, right? So it double bottomed in September and right here in January. So and then it just hasn't been around very long to really say much else. You could call this kind of a double bottom if you want to in early 2017. Um, so I am kind of anticipating that it will be kind of a slow grind up for ETH Bitcoin, but that we will see really nice altcoin seasons when you want to be in altcoins, heavier in altcoins when ETH Bitcoin is going this way, right? You want to be heavy in Bitcoin and not super heavy in Ethereum when we're going that way, right? So it's not really about the magnitude of the bounce that ETH Bitcoin gets. It's just the fact that ETH Bitcoin is going up. And that is telling us that Bitcoin dominance is likely going down. And I think Bitcoin dominance is not really the thing that's stealing Ethereum dominance or keeping ETH Bitcoin slightly muted. I think it's all the other layer ones and layer twos and just the general maturation of the altcoin space. Like you have other kinds of dominances that are creeping in that didn't exist in prior market cycles. And I think that's just going to get worse for Ethereum as time goes on. But for now, I still think Bitcoin is going to have a nice bull market. I just do not think it will be as dramatic as previous ones have. When you look at Ethereum dominance, it's hard to get really that excited. This red zone region doesn't really look like it's holding up all that well. And, it did hold up well in July of 2022, but it doesn't look like it's holding up well now. And maybe it's honestly drawn too high. I mean, maybe we should bring it down to here or something like that, right? That might be a better location for it, or even lower. So yeah, I mean, where is the final support for Ethereum dominance? That's the $1 million question. And yeah, I mean, if you want to say that the red zone should be where I had it originally, you certainly could put it there, right? And you can say, oh, we're like maybe here's good. This might be a good location. So but I think we're about to plunge into this red zone, which corresponds to quite a few, touch points for Ethereum, getting around 13% dominance. But I think you're going to find Ethereum dominance to be very disappointing over time, like Bitcoin dominance, and less important. Like ETH Bitcoin too, I feel like will become a little less important as time goes on, and that is because there are not just going to be two blue chips in the space, Bitcoin and Ethereum. There are going to be other ones too. Could be names like Chainlink or Solana or Aerodrome. I mean, I'm just throwing names out there. There could be a bunch of coins that survive um, into the next bull market after this one, relative to what survived before. And you're really seeing the institutionalization of crypto as that happens, where ETH dominance just becomes less significant along with Bitcoin dominance. And these metrics, while they're still useful, I think will become less useful as time goes on. I anticipate ETH dominance to be a long-term bleeder, just like Bitcoin dominance. It's just ETH dominance hasn't been around as long, so it's not going to bleed as heavily as Bitcoin dominance has. And if we flip a Gaussian channel on here, we can see, yep, we're in the red. It's, not as dramatic as it was before. And this honestly looks very similar to ETH Bitcoin because it's not the same thing, but it's close enough, right? So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, Ethereum, I believe will probably always be number 2 to Bitcoin. Like always is kind of a dangerous thing to say, but let's just say for probably most of my lifetime. I think Ethereum will be still number two to Bitcoin. Um, but I also think that other altcoins below Ethereum are going to start to eat up more and more dominance, more of Ethereum's dominance, more of Bitcoin's dominance. And you know how we say like there's Bitcoin season, there's ETH season, there's altcoin season. Well, I think altcoin season is going to take on kind of a different meaning, and you'll see this happen this cycle too. Is it DeFi season? Is it GameFi season? Is it Solana season? Like there are there's just clusters of projects, categories of projects that just are taking up dominance, and they're eating it away from Ethereum in a lot of cases. You have you have the base ecosystem, you have Solana, you have Tron, you have a bunch of different ecosystems. Um, you've got Celestia, you've got SEI. There's so many different layer one and layer two ecosystems out there, and they're all, especially the layer ones, they're eating away at Ethereum dominance. Now, Base is of course within the Ethereum ecosystem. It's a layer two on top of Ethereum. So technically, it should ride the wave of Ethereum dominance, but Solana isn't. Um, you know, uh, SEI isn't, Celestia isn't. So these ecosystems, whichever ones survive, and we don't know which ones are those are going to be, um, they are going to eat away at Ethereum dominance. They already have been. BNB eats away at Ethereum dominance more and more with each cycle. We could even do a video on BNB sometime, and you would see that the same thing with BNB dominance. I think it's going to also become a bleeder over time. So um, yeah, I think you can use Ethereum as a measure for how altcoins are doing still. I do feel like you can still do that because a lot of the major altcoins are on Ethereum. Okay. And generally speaking, Ethereum is more risky than Bitcoin. So if you just think along the risk curve, anything that is newer than Ethereum is more risky than Ethereum. So if Ethereum's not running, you can expect that most things underneath Ethereum probably won't run either. This may change in the future, though, depending on the use cases of crypto and how that all plays out. So it's just safe. It's just best to not assume that patterns that have been holding for a decade or close to a decade are going to continue to hold for decades to come. But I think we can use the data here to at least draw the inference that Ethereum is probably going to be very significant in quarter four and quarter one of this year and next year, and also potentially late into middle to late of 2025 should the cycle continue that long, which I mean I think there's a decent chance it could. I don't know if it will because we do have recession risk that is fairly significant, so that's why I can't make really great forecasts going that far forward. But I don't think Ethereum dominance is going to put in new highs this cycle. I think if anything it may put in a lower high for macro cycle top. So we will see, right? We'll see what happens. I hope you enjoyed my overview of Ethereum for tonight. And this was more of a overview of the use of using Ethereum as sort of a metric of the health of the altcoin market, but also potentially if you want to buy Ethereum, you saw some good price zones for ETH USD and ETH Bitcoin that could be accumulation opportunities, really great ones coming very soon. Okay. So yeah, if you have any comments, if you agree with me, do you think that Ethereum is still in the bear market and against Bitcoin, and it's in a bit of a bear leg at the moment, bear trap, following along with what Bitcoin's doing? Could you see Ethereum kind of being an oscillator at best against Bitcoin? Do you think Ethereum dominance is going to be less relevant over time? Let me know in the comments. Join my Snake Pit Telegram group. Let me know there too. Um, about my Telegram, we've got almost 300 members and a lot of really intelligent people there. We have regular discussion about altcoins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the general state of the market, and we've got some really, really intelligent analysts who are there as well. We'd love to have you. Great community. So that's about it for tonight. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want more content like this, and I will see you again